I don't know. I'm just going off past.
Okay, so in the past, that's around about the amount we paid.
Yes, ma'am.
In the tourism and promotion,
That's anything that the mayor spends for the tourism and promotion of Jacksonville.
thank you, ma'am. And is there a reason there's nothing in contingency? Is there usually anything there? Am I just missing it over?
No, we have in the past. We chose not to this year to keep the budget at the numbers.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, moving into our tonight's business. Ordinance 1816, reclassifying 10022 Highway 161 from R0 to R4. And we will actually move into also a time of hearing for this, a public hearing on it. It is now 6:07, and I believe we have some people here to speak for or against this rezoning. Raise your hand, please, if you were here to speak towards it. Okay, or on behalf of it, towards this issue. So if y'all would come forward, please. If you would please come to the podium and state your name and your address, please. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Leo Myers. I live at 112 West Valentine, directly connected to this property that we're talking about rezoning. I have like an acre of land right beside that property, and it butts directly up to it. Where that is, 0.37 acres, having 3 houses on it, I don't see it feasible in a sense of traffic along our road, right? And along with that, I think that it would decrease the property value of connected houses in the area, and also a drainage concern. And as well, like I said, I know it says it's off of 161, but the connecting road to get to this property would be on West Valentine. So it would create more clutter inside the road that I live on.
And there's nowhere you can park on. I'm Sheila Gray. I live on Cloverdale. Lived there 38 years. This subdivision is a nice subdivision. 3 houses on less than an acre is unreal. For the parking, you're not going to be able to park on the street if you know West Valentine. They fly down our street. We need speed bumps on that road. I have a petition from everybody on the street that signed it, asking not to put 3 houses there. It's just not feasible for the area, you know, your property value, your, you know.
All right.
Yeah, I have questions for Adam too.
Any other comments or that you want to make of this?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
So if it passes, how do we come about getting a speed bump and no parking signs on that street?
If it were to pass, there is a process for application for speed bumps, and you would just need to talk to our Public Works Department, Street Department. They will give you a list. They actually have a printed sheet of what has to happen, the process.
Because, I mean, he's here, he says he's gonna put 3 houses there, 8 feet apart,
I would assume they're rent houses as well, so
so.
from different people.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
They are rental.
Okay.
Adam?
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is the same council, the same landlord that we consider predatory. Is it Ackland?
No.
This isn't Ackland?
All right, Adam, thank you for being here.
Sure.
Is this?
What can you share with us?
I can't share a whole lot. I wasn't actually present at that meeting. That was one that Melissa attended. I mean, I do know there was some opposition at the meeting. I do know our office received calls, some calls about the property. I know one in opposition, some that had called when it was explained that it was still going to be single-family residence. They didn't push their opposition at that point. But I can't tell you much about, you know, the feelings of the commission, other than they did ultimately approve recommend approval of the rezone to forward it on. I mean, it is, is the applicant here? I think the applicant's here. I mean, they're here tonight too, so they can tell you more about the character of the development. But it is essentially we're using the R4 zoning as a mechanism to get smaller lots. The R4, it's my understanding that they still intend to build single-family houses, but are just doing it on 40-foot wide lots on that property. But be glad to answer anything else of technical merit.
Who is is it Ackland? Okay. It is.
Hey, Adam, what
Sure.
The setbacks and so forth, what would it be? For this?
So an R4 actually provides for a zero lot line setback. However, I think their setbacks are you showing 5 on the plot plans that you turn, 4 and 5?
We have 8 on both sides.
On both
25 in
sides.
front and rear.
Okay.
We're meeting standard residential zoning.
Yeah, so their setbacks, their side setbacks are similar to other lots, but the lots themselves are only 40 foot wide and some change,
Give or take.
give or take. So that's what they get with the R4 zoning instead of a 70-foot wide lot. They get a 40-foot wide lot. So they essentially get a higher density. But the side setback, I mean, that's still got to comply with fire code and things like that. But you know, that's what I know of the character of the development. So.
Nick Tucker with Tucker Land Surveying. I'm here with the client, Ryan Ackland, who's one of the owners of the property. Do you have any more questions about the characteristics of it? Just to address some of the items that they were talking about. Excuse me. As far as the traffic and parking, these houses are going to be standard 25-foot setback from the right-of-way of the road, standard width driveways. So each driveway will be able to park 2 to 3 cars without having to park in the road. There is a road ditch on Valentine too, so it really is not feasible to park in the road, but there is no intent for these houses to have street parking. It will be driveway parking. As far as the drainage goes, to address that, we did a topographic survey, and the site plan will show positive drainage for all 3 houses that would drain into the road ditch, to the highways, and towards all the appropriate drainage structures that are there to facilitate the water flow. And then value, in my experience, new construction brings up the value. These will be brand new construction homes, not low on the finish end. They'll be priced at a higher end per square foot and should do nothing but increase the values of all the other homes in the area.
I think a couple of concerns, Mr. Ackland. Our citizens have complained a great deal about how they have been treated with some of the properties you developed, and each of them that I'm aware of, they're all rentals with no opportunity for home ownership. So I think that's one of the things that really causes some of the citizens to just push back when they hear that there's more development going up. And in this particular area, those who own their homes, they're concerned about that as well. When you're developing, are you considering on that side of town home ownership opportunities, or everything I've seen has been rental?
Yeah, this particular property, we had a house on it that was a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
It burned,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, we could have went in there and rehabbed the house or whatever and tried to, but it had some foundation issues with it as well, and so we just thought it would be a better suit to tear it down, which is what we did. And
There were actually 2.
2 structures on it, yeah.
There were 2 houses.
Yeah, and so we tore them down and then proposing to build brand new construction on it.
3 in the place of the 1 or 2?
2.
It was a large lot.
It was one, okay, one house. It was, so one house,
2 structures, yeah.
one house. Thank you.
So clarification,
Clarification.
it was one house plus a utility building / shed.
Yeah, I think there was an outbuilding of some sort that was out there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Councilman.
I got email about the section, but if you look at the property, I live in the red area right down the street, and it's all red houses right there around the street. And the house that burned down was a red house, and they used the shed over there as a parking lot and everything over there. And none of the neighbors don't spoke nothing about it. And as I looked at it, it's 4 outlets that you can get away from the property when you come out for rental property. So there won't be no traffic problem there. As far as all the rent property on the right-hand side or east side of the property is all rental property. So I don't see no problem getting in and out of the property at all.
Are there other questions?
My concern just goes back to our citizens and their complaints about your developments.
Mayor, earlier, the first couple that spoke talked about somebody signing a signature. How many is on that?
Looks like
20.
quite a bit.
And that 20 different people that live on that street?
We walked down that road.
No, that street.
Thank you. Thank you.
She, we have a lady who would like to speak. Now, you
Ma'am, I
cannot
need
speak from your
you
chair.
to come up. Yep.
While she's approaching, is that a petition for the speed bumps?
No. This is,
This is in opposition to the.
for those of you, since y'all have not seen that list, there's 20 names on it. Some of those are couples out of, it's not 20 different addresses. It's 20 individuals comprising that list.
Okay.
So state your name and address, please.
Jeff, I'm Becky Thomas. The rent houses that you're talking about are the 3 rent houses that belong to me. Those houses were built back right after the war, so they have the right to remain rent houses. I control those. I say what they can have and what they can't have and what's going to stay in their yard and not stay in their yard. Now, I do have my property up for sale, but I'm going to sell my house and continue to keep the rent houses as long as I can. If I do, I don't want to sell and then bring in some kind of junk or have people like this that wants to come in and build houses, say they're houses for the neighborhood. I have a nice house. I own 2 acres there, and I control what my renters do. And when I sell, I want to be sure that it is still maintained like that. I don't want somebody buying the property and building houses and saying that they're single-family homes to be bought and they're actually rent houses. And the street has gotten, we have come up here before, and we asked for speed bumps, and we were told that we could not have them. They turned that corner. They offered us speed signs, 25 miles an hour. They turned that corner off of 161, and you would think it was a raceway down to the stop sign to Cloverdale. And that's unacceptable. There are kids there. They're going to end up coming down there so fast, people coming off of Mayfair, they're going to collide, and it's going to be a bad wreck. They have had 2 wrecks there on the corner that has actually killed people. And it's all been right there on that corner. And so we definitely do need speed bumps. And I don't think we should have to take no for an answer. So thank you.
Other questions? If not, right now, that's why I looked through here that it did not appear to be there for others. So, was there anybody else here that was wanting to speak towards this issue? All right, if not, it is 6:20, officially closing time of public hearing on that. And would entertain a motion to place ordinance 1816 on first reading.
So move.
There is a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Deeds.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary.
It's just to put it on.
Just to put
This
it
is
on
to
reading.
be on first reading. McCoy.
Nay.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Nay.
Twitty.
Nay.
Kinman. Aye. Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1816, an ordinance reclassifying property in the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, amending ordinance numbers 213 and 238 in the land use map of the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
Okay, more time of discussion now amongst questions, comments, anything else you all want to know associated with this?
I think the citizens have made it clear, and I just respect where they are, and there have been just so many complaints about these developments. So that's where I am.
Others?
Yeah, I think just, you know, thinking about what the property that the Acklins have done here in Jacksonville. Yes, they are bringing property to Jacksonville. I think it's out of the council's control who comes in and buys property and whether they choose to, you know, whether you sell it or not. If you buy a home, it does not matter what you choose to do with it. It's your property. Just like this lady spoke and said she owns 3 homes and she chooses to rent the homes out. It's the owner's choice what they want to do with their homes. And yes, do we have a surplus of rental homes? Yes, but we're also getting brand new homes that the cost of those are, the rent is on those are pretty high, and but people are paying it, and we can't. I think we cannot get stuck in a situation where, we tell one person yes and another person no, on certain situations. Just my thoughts on that. We can't control what homeowners do with this. Their choice. And this lady, like she spoke, been doing it for a very long time, and now she's had success with hers. Some people are not successful, but that goes back to property managers and or the homeowners.
I don't disagree with you, but this is concerning the land use map,
Yeah.
and that's within the council's control.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Where rental houses go, where commercial is, that's more of the issue here. It's not a specific anti-certain renters. That makes
Right.
sense.
I just feel like, well, the
Thank you.
majority of what I've heard was more about the use of, what one single person is doing versus what they're not doing.
And not really the rental issue versus the owning issue, but you need to look at the zoning characteristics of the area. If it's all R1 or all RO, does an R4 with that type of density fit?
Right.
That's the biggest question.
Yeah, our public hearing ended, so it would have to pause or come back at the end of in our new business. Or
Do you?
is this pertaining to?
This property, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, the main thing is all of this land at one time belonged to my husband's grandparents. And then it was sold off in different pieces of different people around here, the Peacocks and all of them that bought in and built houses. They built a nice neighborhood there. We were out of the city limits for so long. These houses that I have
The issue with this now, council, what I need you to remember here is the issue is rezoning from R0 to R4. We're not here to make any kind of judgment ruling on the use of the property after that, whether it's sold, whether it's rented, and so forth. This is on allowing the rezone from R0 to R4.
Which would allow for 3 instead of 4.
Exactly. It's changing the density of that property to allow 3 houses instead of 1. So, any other questions? All right. Entertain a motion to excuse me, approve ordinance 1816 on first reading and suspend the rules in place on second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Deets.
Nay.
Rupel.
No.
McCleary.
No.
McCoy.
Nay.
Ray.
Yes.
LeBron.
No.
Moss.
Nay.
Twitty.
Nay.
Kinman. Mims.
Nay.
Motion fails.
Okay, motion fails, so that ends that discussion for this evening. All right. Thank you very much. Next, moving, Michelle Spencer, presentation from our Community Development Block Grant and Stakeholder Engagement Assessment.
Greetings, Mayor, Council, citizens of Jacksonville, and visitors. Very blessed and excited to be here today. As Mayor stated, I am Michelle Spencer, the Community Development Director for the City of Jacksonville. Today we are presenting on the Community Engagement Input results. To kick things off, I'll share the community engagement process from start up to now. Phase 1 involved meetings with organizations, nonprofits, city and public housing administrators, and civic leaders in the community, which commenced in March. Phase 2, we met with the citizens and business owners of Jacksonville during the public community input meetings that took place in April. Phase 3 consisted of the needs assessment survey, which was public for about 45 days and closed out this past weekend. We were able to collect valuable data from residents and business owners across the city that will be published a bit later during the final stages and provided within the plan. During this process, I was blessed with an extended team to assist me. 2 highly experienced professionals from the Arkansas Community Dispute Resolution Center, also known as ACDRC. Angela Tolbert, Esquire, Executive Director, has nearly 36 years of experience as a mediator, arbitrator, facilitator, and conflict resolution trainer. She is widely recognized for her expertise in community coalition building, stakeholder engagement, and organizational development. Mr. Tawhid Salam has close to 40 years of deep knowledge in workforce development, housing and neighborhood revitalization, youth services, and organizational training. Together, their combined expertise guided a thoughtful and inclusive assessment process for Jacksonville over the past few months. Without further delay, I will yield a bit of my time to allow Ms. Tolbert to elaborate on the outcomes of Jacksonville's community stakeholder engagement assessments. Ms. Tolbert.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Department officials, residents, and visitors. It has been my pleasure to work with my colleague, Mr. Salam, as we have talked with city leaders, community residents, just regarding their thoughts, their wishes, their concerns, as we were having discussions to identify priority community needs, assess gaps in services, to inform the strategic and investment decisions regarding low and moderate income residents. All of this was a part of the HUD's consolidation planning process, as Michelle talked about. And we have some slides in your packet. If you refer to your packet on page 26, there's an executive summary. If we could move through the slides, I think there's somebody maybe that's moving the slides for us. If you could go to the, you can go forward because Michelle covered that information right there. Page 36, yes, of your packet, page 36. Yeah, 36, I'm sorry, it's 36.
That's okay, we're all like, what?
We conducted many in-person interviews on site. We went to various facilities, and we actually had many telephone conversations. And we compiled our information across 12 stakeholder groups, and there were consistent reoccurring themes that evolved. I have to say that number one on the list was a request for increased, if you could go back on the slides, yes, right there. There's our reoccurring themes. Public transportation and access to greater public transportation was number one. And that need sort of touched the foundational needs, and it presented a reoccurring barrier impacting employment, education, healthcare, food access, people's ability to health and wellness activities, recreational activities. And then second to that was affordable housing and homelessness was mentioned, including Section 8 availability, rental quality, housing, senior housing safety. And I think you already mentioned this evening, home ownership opportunities. Those were things that we heard across all of our stakeholder groups. And then there was workforce development and economic opportunity, and this included youth employment, reentry programs, senior employment, and business development. There were basic needs concerns as it related to food insecurity, particularly in food deserts among seniors, families, and unhoused populations. There was lots of conversations about the homeless issues that are occurring in the city and some of the reasons contributing to that. And that takes us to the next topic. A lot of the information that we received and the conversations and discussions that we had with residents related to unhoused populations, and some of those issues connected or surrounding those unhoused populations were rooted in mental health and substance use services, or the lack thereof, including counseling, drug treatment, and crisis response. There were conversations as related to youth and senior services. We found that there were interconnectedness when there was things that were needed for young people. There were similar needs that were needed for seniors. So those needs and services sort of were interconnected, including recreation, enrichment, workforce preparation, and accessibility. There were discussions about infrastructure needs, such as sidewalks, parks, street repairs, lighting, and facility rehabilitation. And many of the groups talked about, and I was encouraged by the fact that many of the neighbors say they want to be engaged. They want to have ongoing, broad-based city communications, and they want to do that in a way to debunk what we heard many times from many residents, that there is a perception about Jacksonville. And I'll talk about that in a moment, how that perception is impacting the residents and even potential residents. But the city communication and perceptives included discussions about the need for resource directories. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Stronger coordination. And then people talked about making sure that there was trust. If there was going to be greater communication, they wanted to see how they could be engaged in a way and how they could build trust among all of the people that might be forming partnerships or collaborating with each other. Next slide, please. So I'm going to spend maybe about 30 seconds going over all of the 12 stakeholder groups, so I can just give you some details about some of the things that were said specifically with each stakeholder group. Group number one, we met with youth organizations, and you'll see there on the screen that there were 3 areas that sort of kind of really bubbled up as it related to discussions with our youth organizations and youth service providers. They talked about food insecurity. It was identified as a persistent issue, particularly for students relying on schools, churches, and after-school programs for consistent meals. Transportation barrier was there, again, related to just meeting the basic needs of having access to food, after-school programs, and getting to programs that might service young people. The stakeholders emphasized early workforce exposure, including noting that there were limited opportunities for teens to build job readiness skills, gain work experience, and participate in structured summer employment. There was also discussions about recreation spaces and technology access. And this was highlighted as crucial for engagement because people were, as I already mentioned, were really talking about how they can tap in. How can they have avenues, access points to be a part of a greater community conversation that not only allowed them to be engaged, but to be a part of prevention strategies and approaches and discussions. For sure, housing stability and neighborhood safety, especially in the Sunnyside community. There was a lot of discussion about the Sunnyside community, which was again described as something that was foundational and necessary, and it was influencing the youth behavior, their academic performance, and also long-term opportunities for young people. I want to make sure that I give voice to many of the residents that shared comments. And throughout this presentation, you'll see a slide or two, or at the bottom of the slide, you'll see some quotes or 1 or 2 quotes, because we want to make sure that we bring to you all some of the voices of the people that, you know, they could said no to us, but they were willing to participate and provide their comments. So I definitely want to share. And one of the overarching remarks that that I wanted to share with you all as it related to the youth organizations, one of the participants stated that there should be safer outdoor and technology spaces for youth all over the city. So throughout all of our stakeholder groups, they were talking about being inclusive and making sure that if we're talking about improvement, redevelopment, that we're doing it throughout the city. Next slide, please. In our next group, we went to the Senior Wellness Activity Center. I think you all were just talking about budgeting for that today. But we had an opportunity to have a really good conversation there. And again, what rose to the top of their list was concern for transportation, because they viewed transportation was one of the most significant barriers to affecting nearly every aspect of someone having a high-quality senior life. There was limited or unreliable transportation options. The seniors said limited their ability to get food, health care, employment. They talked about social and wellness activities, just their independence overall. And then the flip side of that is having some transportation so that they would not feel isolated. I was surprised. I heard a lot of people talking about isolation in transportation and just not having good public transportation to just go out for a half day or have a day out, and just having mobility concerns or lack of transportation preventing them from being able to do so. Food insecurity came up again with our seniors. They talked about ADA compliant facilities because a lot of our seniors have walkers, they have motorized chairs, and they just talk about having safe walking paths. If they were going to go to a walking path, getting from a car to a park, from a parking lot to a sidewalk to an actual walking path, they said they experienced so many barriers like that in the city. I mean, they want to get out, but they just don't feel safe that they might fall on their walker or turn over in their motorized chair. And then overall, they talked about having expanded wellness programming. A lot of the seniors talked about opportunities to transcend some isolation that they might be experiencing because of a lack of transportation, but also having some structured opportunities to engage with young people, engage with community groups, or engage with churches. So they're looking for something that will allow them to not only enhance their physical wellness, but their mental wellness and their overall mental health and well-being. And here, I think when we were talking with the individuals at the Senior Wellness Center, someone provided the statement that we need more infrastructure to foster a sense of community. And that infrastructure to them was being the sidewalks, the ADA compliant facilities. So those were some of the things that we received from that group. The third group was faith-based and community organizations. We were talking with neighbors from Ward 2. And the residents, one of the things that I remember from this group is that they talked about wanting to be involved. They were talking about, and I'm going to jump right to the quote that I had from them, is they said, let's empower our community to come up with solutions. They wanted to be solutions driven. It is not that they say they want to be viewed as a ward that is constantly complaining. They want to establish some good communication, some trust-based communication. That leads me to the next quote. Communication should be disseminated out to everyone, broad-based communication. They feel that certain areas of the city might be more fully informed about things that are happening with the city, whereas they are getting the information late or they're not getting the information at all. So, but do know that the residents in Ward 2 are saying that they want to be involved. Some of the needs that they identified were literacy programs. They talked about having tutoring programs, youth mentoring, and then, as I've mentioned, that civic engagement. And knowing that some of these problems that they are experiencing in Ward 2, they view them as, cyclical, that they can get addressed for a time, but then they come back again. And some of the problems continue to impact vulnerable households. So if you have a household that is being impacted during one cycle, they get some gains in the next cycle, but then they're impacted again in the next cycle. They said that it's like an ever-increasing, hole that they can't seem to get out of. But they're still encouraged and want to be involved because they know that the city is trying to be progressive, but they want to be involved in the conversation and some of the decision making and having a role in some of the solutions that might be occurring. Our next group was, we talked with the executive director of the Housing Authority and one of the assistants there. Of course, they focused on housing affordability, availability, and then the quality of the housing stock in the community. There was discussion about rising rents, limited affordable units, and then, of course, an aging housing stock. They were identified as, continuing pressures for low-income households, and then housing maintenance and safety remained critical concerns. There was also discussion about, I like to say empowerment, but people also wanting to be self-sufficient. You can have people that are low income, low moderate income, but the housing authorities officials recognize that a lot of these people wanted to be and continue to be self-sufficient. But there's a need for greater workforce development, financial literacy, and for sure many, many more opportunities for first-time home ownership education, not opportunities. They want to be educated because when people get the facts about first-time home ownership, then they feel empowered that that is something that is a viable option for them. So it's about having some education. And then again, transportation was also discussed. Those challenges were cited as significant barriers, preventing the residents from accessing, again, some fundamental things, employment, training programs, and various supportive services in their community. We had a wonderful conversation with city department officials, HR, IT, and other department officials, and they talked more about systems and policy perspectives. They emphasized affordable housing, infrastructure planning, workforce readiness, and they talked a great deal about service coordination, how you can put all of these things together to address some of these priority needs, but we need to do it in a coordinated way. They talked about cross-department collaboration, clearer communication within the city, and shared data within the city so that it could truly be a collaborative, cohesive, comprehensive, not so much city-driven approach, but city partnership with community residents approach. There was lots of conversations about a need for increased behavioral health services. We know that the city has a concern with homelessness. I think we talked with the chief. He made a statement about some of the crimes that are occurring, some of the property crimes, robberies that are occurring, even though crime is down, are related to people that might be unhoused and people that might have untreated mental health or behavioral health concerns. And there being a need, there's an increasing demand for treatment facilities across all populations. So those were some of the things that were discussed with our city department officials. And a quote that we have, it goes to the perceptions that I mentioned earlier. This is what one of the department officials had to say. I was told not to live in Jacksonville. Wish I had lived in Jacksonville all the time. An airman will look for housing in Cabot or Sherwood, but not in Jacksonville. And that's the statement that we heard from many residents in several of our stakeholder groups, is that there is this certain perception about Jacksonville, and the perception might not always be the most positive perception, but there might be people that are contributed with perpetrating this negative perception, and there needs to be some thinking around how that can be negated and how that can be overcome in a coordinated, cohesive manner that can give the city some of those progressive, long-term, sustained results that I know that all of you all are working hard to accomplish. Let's see, the next slide, please. We talked to Park and Rec, and we had a conversation with our chief. We talked here about some strong linkages between youth disengagement, housing instability, food insecurity, untreated behavioral health needs, and public safety challenges. All of those things are just meshed together. And I don't think that you're going to have some great results in any one area without trying to also strategically address all of those areas at the same time. The participants emphasized an investment in community facilities and recreational programs were viewed as ways to prevent some of the public safety challenges that you all have and use it as a preventative public safety strategy. Some of the quotes that came from those discussions include: the city would greatly benefit from more year-round recreation programs for youth and families. A lot of people talked about seniors, young people, even in the churches, people were just talking about how they could come out of their homes into the community and be involved in some recreational activities. Additional mental health services would promote public safety. That was something that we heard a lot from many of the stakeholders regarding a need for additional mental health services. Next slide, please. We had a really good discussion with the Chamber of Commerce representatives, library officials, and several community advocates. This group emphasized workforce readiness, job training, and transportation access. They saw that as fundamental, again, to food security, homelessness. All of these things were viewed as barriers to consistent employment and maintaining a job. And underpinning all of that is a need for some transportation. So there's that transportation coming up again. The Chamber of Commerce really said that they have been working on and will continue to work, and they're looking for additional city input from, and hopefully have the city serve, or some of the city websites or social media platforms serve as a home for a centralized community resource directory, because there's lots of things that are happening in the city, but people don't know what's happening, on this side of town or the other side of town. Or frankly, there were organizations that were literally on the same street that didn't know about some of the same, they were having some of the same services, and they ultimately had an opportunity to speak with each other to avoid duplication of services. So the quotes that we have here relate to making sure that there is some centralization of community resources so that people will be able to have ready access to them. And then we met with the NAACP. The NAACP representatives talked about equitable redevelopment and reinvestment, particularly in the historically underserved neighborhoods. They mentioned Sunnyside and Ward 2. I think they started with, again, transportation access and just a need to make sure that there is infrastructure improvements that were critical to creating a sense of equity in the city, and also closely linked to that, their concerns about equity was fostering a sense of safety within those communities. And the quotes that we have that came out of those discussions is community redevelopment and investment efforts should focus on the entire city, not just certain preferred areas. So making sure that there's broad-based equitable redevelopment and reinvestment. And then the other quote is, Jacksonville has many businesses, churches, and groups that want to help, but they need to be organized and know what the other is doing. So that ties to, although that came up often, the Chamber of Commerce is working on a solution for that. And I know that they're looking forward to the city helping them to make sure that that is something that will be widely available. The next one is the school district. School district officials emphasized out-of-school factors. We didn't talk about what students were doing at all in school. They talked about things that were going on outside of the classroom, outside of the school building, that was affecting the students' academic success and overall health and wellness. They talked about the transportation barriers. I know you all are familiar with the closure of one of the apartment complexes, and they were saying that there was one school that was really impacted by that, and how the school was trying to and was providing support for food and housing and other basic needs. But the out-of-school factors included housing instability, food insecurity, and the transportation barriers. And all of these things the school officials said contributed to absenteeism with their students, reduced academic performance, and increased family stress. They said they just had parents that were at ends related to housing, related to how they were going to feed their kids. And then there was discussion about community supports and a lack of community support through after-school programs, tutoring, and enrichment activities. The quote that came from some of our school district officials included, there are certain negative perceptions about Jacksonville. And we get back to that perception statement that people were talking about. And they concluded by saying that perception is everything. So what they encouraged is that they are wanting to work on overcoming any negative perceptions that might be in existence regarding Jacksonville. And then we had a really enjoyable meeting at the Senior Towers with the Senior Tower residents one early morning for breakfast. And the Senior Tower residents talked more than anything about their personal safety. Personal safety. They also talked about housing safety, maintenance, and accessibility. They talked about a lack of adequate street lights. We've already mentioned speed bumps tonight, but no speed bumps in their area. Just their facilities, some elevator concerns, stairwell conditions. And then there was a lot of discussions about just affordability and affordability pressures that, based on their limited incomes, they are challenged with all types of issues, all of their basic needs just because of their limited income. I want to slow down and I want to read a comment, and this is the longest, most lengthiest one that I have, but it was one that speaks to the personal safety concerns that was echoed by all of the people in the room. And let me just slow down and read this one. Heavily concerned about the personal safety of Senior Tower residents walking or riding electric wheelchairs to a grocery store or local businesses, a Senior Tower resident stated, "We feel like prey for robbery at the start of each month on Hospital Drive. When we leave the property due to infrequent police patrols and criminal activity by residents in an area apartment complex or the apartment complexes." So they are wanting to have some increased engagement with the city so that they can voice those concerns that go to their personal safety and their sense of security on Hospital Drive. And it's really rooted in some of the activities that are occurring around them, and they are wanting some additional street lighting, speed bumps, and police protection. Next slide, please. Faith-based leaders. We had 2 meetings with our faith-based leaders, and the first one sort of focused more on homelessness, affordable housing shortages, vacant properties, neighborhood divestment, and there was, of course, conversations about transportation. They talked about wanting to be trusted partners. We know that our churches are trusted partners. They want to be trusted community partners with the city, but they are wanting improved communication, transparency, and consistent follow-through. We know that we have unfortunate circumstances like happened this weekend, and that we have meetings of our faith-based leaders, and there might be some, crisis responses, but I think they are seeking ongoing and continued engagement and follow-through with the city regarding all types of issues and priorities that might be faced by the residents and throughout the community. And then finally, our 12th group, we worked with the faith-based leaders, and we were just talking about the youth. And they were talking about churches being a place where young people find their voice, right? And they often you all know that young people make their first public speeches, right, in their churches. And how they can foster youth voice and leadership development, but making sure that they are fostering young people that want to be engaged in this age that we are in now of having a sense of civility and fostering civic engagement. And they also talked about some of the barriers for young people and how the churches are disconnected from young people. And number one on their list is transportation and some of the barriers and the cost of transportation that not only limit their interaction with young people, but the young people's interaction in recreation activities and enrichment programs. I know the city has wonderful facilities and parks, but young people are challenged with transportation of how to get there. And I think I stated earlier that many of the things that were noted when we were having discussions about youth was also similar to and mirrored many of the needs that our seniors had. So that was sort of interconnected. Some of the quotes that we have here include, "I should not have to leave the city of Jacksonville to go to Cabot for an emergency room for almost every emergency. Jacksonville needs a coordinated effort from several churches to meet the current transportation need." And then finally, we must find a way to streamline the out-of-state investors and out-of-state landlords and make them more accountable to their tenants. There's a graphic here, it's sort of small, but you all can see that there's some blue that goes all the way across to the top. The ones that go all the way across to the top are transportation, every group mentioned that. Workforce and a need for workforce development and readiness, every group mentioned that. Infrastructure and a need for those safe sidewalks, ADA accessible facilities, every group mentioned that. Then, of course, we have housing, youth services. You all see that there was mental health mentioned, that food insecurity, and then, of course, providing some youth services. Next slide. Now, what did we overarchingly, what are some of the conclusions that can be drawn from this? And when you look at that page that has those reoccurring themes at the very start, I think, you see that there is a request for a coordinated, equitable, he flipped my thing. Yeah, those are the 12, I'm loving that somebody's actually listening today, that those 12 things that we mentioned there, all of those areas. Okay, can we go back to the very end? That there needs to be a coordinated, equitable, and community-driven planning process. You have people that want to be engaged. They said that they do not want to be viewed as complainers and whiners. They want to develop a trust-based relationship so that they can become a part of the solution and that they can be a part of, helping vulnerable populations in the city and also promote the long-term resiliency and growth for the city of Jacksonville. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Quite a lot of information to absorb, so don't worry. We will have a packet to give to you all so you all can go and digest some of this and see it in black and white and color. So what's next? After all this information has been captured, during the data collection process over the past few months, narratives have started to form regarding our 5-year consolidated plan, during which you, the citizens of Jacksonville, articulated the needs, for the city, which directly affects our low to moderate income individuals and families. Once all the information is calculated from the surveys, there will be another presentation in August. It won't be as lengthy as this one, but I really felt this information needed to be spoken to you all first, and then have an opportunity to get the information digested, and then we come back together again. Once all this information is calculated, of course, we will come back in August. We will have a public comment period, a public comment period in July from the 1st through the 30th. We will also host a community collaboration meeting to discuss next steps to accomplish some of the goals and priorities discuss the next steps to accomplishing some of the goals and priorities moving into the next year. Be on the lookout for public notices that will be shared via city website, local newspaper, and social media. Before I take my seat, I would like to extend a few acknowledgments. First and foremost, I want to thank Mrs. Tolbert and Mr. Salam for blessing us with their expertise, their knowledge, and professionalism while visiting our great city. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. I would like to thank all the identified stakeholders, the city directors, the citizens and business owners within the community who took part in the discussions over the past few months by providing your invaluable input. Special shout out to our Information Technology Director, Brian Harvey, and his team for assisting me with the electronic survey by getting it up and running effectively and efficiently. Emily Sundermeyer, our Communications Director, I can't go without shout out to her. She was able to share the survey on our website, our social media outlets, to ensure that the community was well informed regarding updates, extensions, and how to access the survey in general. Again, everyone's efforts are so greatly appreciated. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very informational. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I got the manual, but that precedes my presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, moving to ordinance 1818, establishing the municipal property owners multipurpose improvement district, number 6, I believe. We will go into a time of public hearing also for this. I believe there are a few who have signed up to speak about this issue. Raise your hand if you have, please, if you're wanting to speak. Okay, if y'all would come forward. Yeah, public hearing is starting at 7:04.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Farrell, and I'm an attorney for Meadow Creek's development and for this improvement district. I specialize in helping developers form improvement districts so that they can put in infrastructure in neighborhoods, things like roads, sidewalks, drainage, utilities. Meadow Creek is a neighborhood that you all have approved that will begin construction, or may already have begun construction. And I have John Kennan, who is one of the developers, here with us this evening. It's going to be, just as a reminder, since you all already approved the neighborhood, but it's going to have 120 lots of homes that are for sale. And it's anticipated that they will be in what I will call an attractive price point, the high 200s to the mid 300s. So what I consider attractive, accessible housing. Tonight, the question before you is simply the formation of an improvement district, which is governed heavily by Arkansas law. In particular, Arkansas Code 1494-106 says that a municipality will form an improvement district if two conditions have been met. One, that all of the landowners have signed the petition for the improvement district, and that is the case. And secondly, that the mortgage holder, lien holder, has been notified and does not object. I have provided to the city clerk and city attorney a copy of the certified letter that went to the lien holder. The lien holder is not here to object, and then also the lien holder, First Arkansas Bank and Trust, their representative Ashley Carper sent an email that I then forwarded on to the city attorney and clerk, stating that they did not have any objection. Again, the developer John Kennan is here. I realize I'm speaking in a lawyerly fashion. That's one of the downsides of going to law school. But I am also trying to indicate that the benefit that this development that you all have already wisely approved will bring to the city. If you have any questions for me, I'll revert to English in response. Or if you have questions about the infrastructure, I'm sure Mr. Kennan can assist.
Adam, could you come up, please? Sure. Also.
While he's coming, question, did our city attorney approve this to form?
So I spoke with their attorney. Legally, statute she's referencing it is correct. My concerns, and I think this was some of council's concerns, are contained in the actual, not the ordinance itself, but in the actual the notice.
Okay. We'll talk more about it after Adam.
So I can tell you, give you a little bit of background, what I know of improvement districts and my involvement with improvement districts from my private practice, engineering consultant. So I am a little bit familiar with improvement districts. I've had clients that utilize the improvement districts in the past for infrastructure improvements. My familiarity kind of stops at utilizing an improvement district for the initial infrastructure. It gives the developer access to low interest bond market for a financing mechanism as opposed to a conventional loan. The borrowing the money essentially at a bond is paid back based on the difference in the improvements of pre-appraisal, post-appraisal. That gives the range of the improvement, and the developer can assess a levy or to the property tax within that realm to pay back that loan. So it's a funding mechanism. What I'm less familiar with is the maintenance aspect of improvement district. That's something that's a little bit new to me, and it's something that we've recently kind of had a negative situation happen with an improvement district here in the city that everybody knows. So I think I received a lot of calls from some of you and stuff, and some others with some concerns on that. So I was kind of asked to speak to that, and I have some concerns on that as well. I feel like the infrastructure side is pretty clear. I read through the statute and understand a good portion of it, but I feel like there's some gray areas that I just don't. I'd like to ask some questions, or ask of y'all to ask some questions for clarification. The form that this is being proposed to you is an improvement district that's intended to continue. It does not appear to have a sunset after the infrastructure is paid off. So after the indebtedness of the initial development is paid off, it does have a maintenance aspect of it that, as I understand it reads, is specifically geared toward the maintenance of the landscape common areas, which this development does have a large green and common area involved in it, and then as to the dedicated streets. I did not see anything as it related to water and sewer. Both Thea and Jake have reached out to me specifically and are concerned, and rightly so, about the dedication of the infrastructure. They said specifically, that they want the infrastructure to be dedicated as in normally would be via final plat once it's complete. And I would be the same in the streets. Now, I certainly welcome, an improvement district that would participate, if there's improvements needed. So I don't mind the language that says that, but my question is to the actual dedication and ownership. To that end, one red flag came up in the statute that it was a little concerning to me, and hopefully the attorney maybe can shed some light on that. And it says, no assessment shall apply against any pipelines or other improvements which are owned by any municipality, county, school district, or improvement district. So, as I said, this funding mechanism is based on as the land sets and then the improvements against it. That improvement gets assessed a value. So those improvements are the water, sewer, streets that are putting in. As I read this, and I'm certainly no attorney, it would seem to imply that once that infrastructure is dedicated, then that could no longer count towards the assessment, which then in turn turns into a levy against the property tax and is collected. So it might affect the funding mechanism by which they want to pursue. I don't know. I've never seen that situation used, but that would be a question, because the improvement district that we've had an issue was it involved the continuation of maintenance aspect of it. So that was where my concern would lie, and just questions answered. Do they intend to? The developer's not represented, anything to the contrary, that they seem to be planning to dedicate everything via final plat when that's all said and done. But this little red flag kind of threw up. I mean, from what I understand, like I said, I've mentioned the city of Bryant to a couple of you. From what I understand, the city of Bryant uses the improvement district mechanism to maintain detention ponds. I think that's a brilliant mechanism to do that. I'm not exactly sure how they do it. If they wind up, the city owns an area where this stormwater detention pond is, and as such, they can function as the board of the improvement district. And I think that's a cleaner mechanism than relying on a property owners association for maintenance. Property associations aren't real strong in Arkansas. Property owner associations got to send out mailers and collect debts and stuff like this. This is a much more formal process. The assessor collects the dues, if you will, from the property tax, and then it gets paid back to the administrator and stuff. And so I feel like that's cleaner. So I feel like it's something the city may consider using if we get into that. But anyway, that's my concern. Maybe the attorney can address that, and maybe the intent. Maybe it prompted some questions of your own.
Is it Ms. Farrell?
Yes, Farrell, yes.
Farrell. Mr. Cannon, Ms. Farrell, Adam made a statement in there which I did have a direct question about.
Sure.
And that does pertain to the big three of wastewater, water, infrastructure, and streets.
Yeah.
Is the intent to turn those over to the city, or
yes,
for them to maintain?
No, the way an improvement district has generally worked, but in North Little Rock, and Maumelle, where I have experience doing them both personally and as the attorney, the municipal property owners improvement district under 1494-101 et sec is what I'm trying to, or what we have petitioned under. The purpose generally is to construct infrastructure that then gets turned over to the city. So the sewer, water, road, once it meets your city engineering, the same process of every developer, once it meets and is satisfactory to your engineering department, then it is turned over to the city. Occasionally, improvement districts will, they continue for the life of the bond, at least for 30 years. Certainly the bondholders want the improvement district to continue until they're paid off. There is the opportunity to sunset an improvement district after the bonds are paid off. There is the option of continuing an improvement district more for maintenance of the public common greens, things that the city does not take over or want to own.
Yeah, Adam was referring to a situation which has us a little gun shy to an improvement district that did not turn over. They kept some of that utility, and it's turned into a nightmare for the residents. So that's what my specific.
Yes,
intent.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
Your intent is to turn them all over.
Yeah. I'm going to say that, but I'm also going to ask John Kennan to say that the intent of the developers is to turn it.
Absolutely. I just asked Adam why anybody would want to keep the maintenance on those things. So
Yeah.
it makes no sense to me. But yes, that is our intent for sure. Yeah.
And hey, Thea, hard sidebar question. Are you good? Does that answer your question? What you're needing? Thea is our director of wastewater.
Yes.
So that's why.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
And improvement districts particularly are being used more because as you all are well aware, particularly after the report that was just excellently provided, it's very hard to develop housing, particularly at what I call an attractive price point in this time of high interest rates and the cost of construction. So it's another tool that enables the development of for-sale housing.
So, Mayor, is this written the way in our favor, the way she described it? It's not written that way?
It's just written in accordance with, oh, I'm sorry,
No.
excuse me.
I will let our attorney.
Before you answer that, I think there's a few council members that have questions about the sunset clause or the lack of.
Yeah, so under Arkansas law, a improvement district can be dissolved once when the bonds are paid off. It's also an improvement district may issue separate bonds, so it may start, issue one set of bonds now to build some of the infrastructure, and then issue another set in 5 years. And so it's dangerous to put in a sunset clause up front because you don't know how many times you need to issue bonds, et cetera. The statute does provide for a dissolution of an improvement district once all the bonds are paid off. So improvement districts are heavily governed by Arkansas statute, and there's transparency reports that are required to be filed every year that indicates what the funds of the improvement district, what the income or the revenue of the district is, and then what it is spent on. And to answer the question, although I know you want your attorney to answer, but the ordinance is drafted like a typical ordinance for an improvement district under this particular code.
Questions about that because I'm going to go to declare an emergency and under section 6 for me. Yeah, so it says there's an immediate need within the city of Jacksonville, and then it talks about the public health and safety for us. This doesn't necessarily apply, so I would say this declaring an emergency doesn't apply here.
Okay.
For the city.
If you want to strike that from the ordinance, that does not bother me. I'll be frank. We had another improvement district where there was a need for an emergency, and I'm guilty of.
I understand.
of not removing that emergency clause. So if the city wants to remove that emergency clause, that's fine. But excuse me, let me ask. May I ask the question? In Jacksonville, when does an ordinance become law without an emergency clause? 30 days. 30 days. No problem. This situation where it was going to be much longer. No problem. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my problem with improvement districts are not far inside the city limits. We've been bitten by our improvement district inside the city limits of Jacksonville. Most improvement districts I've dealt with was outside the city limits, where you could get federal money and all. And they've been abandoned inside the city limits, and the city had to take over. I think improvement districts inside the city limits are not good for cities.
Stephanie, can this be wrote to our favor?
Are you talking about just the ordinance itself?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty boilerplate.
Yeah, it's.
The issue I think you may have is with the notice or with the, not the ordinance itself, but the contents of, separate issue, I think. The ordinance itself is.
Legal has and
right.
Water.
And the concerns Adam brought up as well.
Corrections too, there's a dollar sign.
That also comes with, we're talking streets, water, wastewater and so forth. The final approval or plat of this whole subdivision has not been approved yet. And that is all part that conveys with it, so.
So the planning commission can go and get some of this stuff resolved.
They have been before planning commission, but it has not been, there has not been a final that has been approved yet, so.
They have a contingent approval of the preliminary plat, which gets them approval to construction. So,
In construction.
right, so there's some minor contingencies still floating out there that aren't anything of consequence as I see it.
Well, this has
Pretty
nothing to
standard.
do with this.
Right.
Yeah, in this situation, the fact that, I mean, they are not asking for anything that is abnormal, per se, from the standpoint of dealing with utilities and so forth. They will, as a normal developer would, they would put in the infrastructure and so forth, and then it would be dedicated to the city. City takes it over, becomes city property, and we move forward with it from that point.
Well, there will be some common areas that even after the bonds are paid off, we need to address those going forward. Because if you're planning on dissolving the improvement district once the bonds are paid off, there's still ongoing maintenance issues within the subdivision with the retention pond, maybe even some with the mailboxes that are all gonna be up to the front of the subdivision, as well as any green areas and signage.
And that's
also issues that could be addressed.
that's typical of all neighborhoods, whether there's an improvement district or not. There's common areas, and that's generally handled by a POA. This is an improvement district, again under 1494-101 at SEC, which is more for the construction of infrastructure. Neighborhoods are built all the time with common areas that don't have improvement districts, and those are handled by POAs or other entities.
But your paperwork does in fact reference that.
It does offer that as a...
As well as the maintenance of dedicated streets.
It offers that as a power possibility if it's needed, but again, in this instance, the city of Jacksonville it's all going to be dedicated to the city of Jacksonville.
So y'all are not going to be addressing any of the recreational purposes and the cost of maintaining landscaping, the dedicated streets, and any other amenities in the district?
It gives, this section gives the authority to do that if it is needed, yes. So if it is needed, it gives the authority to the improvement district to maintain common areas, et cetera. And the two conditions for formation of an improvement district have been met. All the property owners have signed it, and the lien holder has not objected. So, but by establishing an improvement district, it's actually a helpful mechanism, I view it, to cities. Most of the cities that we work with are welcoming of them because the property owners in the area cover the cost of some of the infrastructure that brings in new development. So that's a very positive way to do that.
I think to kind of go what Mayor Elmore was saying earlier, we've been burned by a recent...
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that.
...where nothing was dedicated to the city, and so now we've kind of inherited that problem. I think a lot of the heartburn up here could be solved if maybe this was narrowed a little bit, if possible. And again, I have no objection to the ordinance itself. It complies with the statute, as you've mentioned a few times now. But I do think that just on page 1 of the notice, the petition, that bottom paragraph, I think just maybe narrowing that down, or some language saying that these facilities will be dedicated to the city after the fact may go a long way with council.
So I don't have an objection, but I don't think this is the best vehicle to do it because of Arkansas statutes governing improvement districts. I'm sure my clients would be willing to enter into a contract with the city saying we intend to dedicate. How does your final plat, at the time, can you do a refusal to issue final plat until it's dedicated? Can you do that?
I mean, I suppose we can, and that's one thing we have. One thing that's a little bit different, I'll state on this one versus the Meadows. I wasn't here during the Meadows, but the infrastructure was not even constructed to city standard. It was known at the time, so there was never even a vehicle to dedicate it after the infrastructure is paid off. So that is one thing you know, that they have going for them. I mean, they have submitted plans that are in accordance with our plans and specifications and stuff. You know, I wish the state statute did say something to, you know, it's got to comply with, you know, the municipal, and I'm sure that's in law somewhere, but you know, it just is not read clearly in here, and it just makes me nervous. It obviously wasn't done with the meadows, and now we're stuck in a position where the board is absent, and we don't have a seat at the table to, you know, the city has literally no involvement in it at all, and it's not even something that we could come in and say, okay, we'll accept it because it's not even done to our specifications. That's one thing we don't have to deal with here. So, but I wish it was more. I wish I was more comfortable with the statutes that said you got to do what they say, or we had the right to dedicate it. And then the one red flag that the no assessment shall apply against the pipelines or other improvements which are owned by any municipality, county, school district, or improvement district. I mean, that goes to speak to how much they could borrow, or essentially borrow against the improvement district once that dedication takes place, because the dedication takes place, then we become the owners. So then they can't, if they need to redo their assessment for continued maintenance, does that tie their hands in which, you know, we physically can't assess enough against this to pay for the continued maintenance. And you know, I don't know if it's dedicated to us. It doesn't matter. The green area, but that would be something a citizen's concern. You know, that's a green area. The board no longer wants to, and the statute does provide for members of the improvement district to outs the board. I mean, of course, it's going to start the members are going to be the developers, but there is procedures for perpetuating that and stuff, and so there is chance for a changeover in board. But once again, the city doesn't have a seat at the table. I think there's mechanisms by which it could, if we wanted. We would need to be a property owner, from what I understand. You know, dedication of a detention area, or I don't know if the dedication of the streets then makes us a property owner, where we could be a named person. I don't know if you'd even want that. I don't know, but it might be some control. Just lots of questions I had. But.
So if I can, I now understand your concern. And so the paragraph that you're citing indicates that the city, what it's saying when it says no assessment shall be against, it's saying that the city won't have to pay a property tax assessment, if you will, on city-owned property of roads, or I think the other things were another improvement district. So what they're saying is that the city is not going to have to pay part of that assessment. Where the assessment is added to landowners' property tax. So when bonds are first issued, whoever owns the land is going to pay the assessment, with the exception of it's never going to be the city, it's never going to be, and then individual lot owners will pay the assessment. And so the city is not required to be assessed. Before bonds can be issued, there's again a whole statutory process, which is a very public notice process. This is just formation. This is an issue of bonds. Issue of bonds is the assessment is done by a professional assessor who submits it to the city clerk for review. And so there's a whole assessment of the benefits gained to the property owner, or property owners, plural. And then there's public notice. There's actually 3 times of public notice before bonds are issued. If you want, I can go through that in great detail, but just to shorten it, it's a very public process with public hearings on the actual assessments and public hearings on the bonds.
Any other further questions?
I'd just like to see it tightness at 33 minutes. Narrow it, some of that language there, in the notice. That's it for me.
So So if I may address the concern, the notice is required by Arkansas law to notify that that's what municipal improvement, property owners improvement districts can do. I certainly understand, one, that y'all have been burned, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's, you know, sort of one bad apple ruins the barrel, and I'm sorry to see you all have experienced that. These have been, improvement districts have been used very effectively in North Little Rock, Little Rock, Bryant, Maumelle, and maybe even Jacksonville in other situations. I'm not aware. And so it's heavily statutorily governed by what must be put in the notice. And so I understand you're concerned and you want to make sure that we dedicate it and you want to make sure the developers do it right. I think there's better mechanisms through planning and so forth.
So I know that the statutory requirements have been met. That's fair. I think what Councilmember's asking for is just maybe one step above what the bare minimum requirement is, just to kind of narrow down the purpose.
Okay.
Which is allowed precisely.
So tell me, so how would you like to proceed?
Well, you said that there were other mechanisms that you thought were more appropriate than this.
So, for example, some of the things we referenced, that the roads are not, a final plat is not provided until it's certain that city infrastructure meets, that the infrastructure meets city codes. Also, they're for sale lots, and so, of course, building permits can't be issued until they're approved by the city. And so I think there's other mechanisms, very strong mechanisms in place. An improvement district is actually a very small portion of the development cost, and it's primarily a funding mechanism. The mechanisms of, does it meet code? Does it, are they dedicating the roads? Those are more done through final plat or permanent plat.
The dedication will be contingent, or the final plat approval will be contingent upon dedication.
What is the process in Jacksonville? I don't want to speak on how it's done in Jacksonville.
But so final plats after the infrastructure is installed and inspected and as built. You know, after water and wastewater get after it meets their requirements, after the street passes compaction tests and stuff, then the final plat is presented to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommends approval, and then we go a step further in that is the final plat is then presented to the City Council, and the purpose of that presentation to the Council is not really approval of the plat. It's actually a function of acceptance of the maintenance of the infrastructure of the streets and stuff. So that's the primary purpose why we bring final plats to it. Statutorily, Planning Commission has adequate authority to approve a final plat for it to be recorded, but I feel like that's actually been lost a little bit in our process. Maybe some of y'all don't understand. No, that when you're seeing a final plat, what you're actually doing is accepting the maintenance on the infrastructure that we take, namely the streets and drainage. So.
Right, and that was my point with what I read a while ago, is that the notice does say that the cost of construction of various improvements for recreational purposes and the cost of maintaining the landscaping, the dedicated streets. There is no cost to the improvement district of maintaining dedicated streets.
If you'd like to take out cost of maintaining dedicated streets, I'm certain that the developers would appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor,
so we can
I'd like
take
to
out.
make a motion to table this. There's just too much that needs to be corrected in this ordinance for us to even move forward, I feel like.
All right. There's been a motion and a second made to table this for correction or cleaning, changing the
All the corrections that we have mentioned.
Line it all up with what
Yes.
has been said.
And I would be glad to get with the city attorney. I reached out to her multiple times, and so I'd be glad to visit with her, and then also I'd be glad to visit with every single council member. I understand when it's new and different, and when you've been burned. Again, I also encourage you to reach out to maybe Ms. Friedman, if you can reach out to the city attorney of Maumelle, or reach out to council members in other cities who are more comfortable with this.
I think it's a very minimal thing that they're asking.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that my client will be glad to work with that.
We're not familiar with it, or we're not familiar with it. It's just they would like some of the verbiage changed, and I think that's fair.
We do have. Hold on. We do have a motion on the table. We need to take action on that before the other discussion takes place. So
A motion and a second.
The motion and a second has been made to clean this up, bring it back, and reconvene on this topic. So we're just making sure. One of them, Kevin or Councilmember McCoy. All right. So all in favor of tabling this motion for adjustment to the proposed ordinance, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? Okay.
I just have one comment. I would like to clean up or address issues either through ordinance or through contractual as appropriate with statutory, so that it doesn't delay this through a whole another 60 to 90 days. So I just wanted to be clear what types of documents I would like to see us work on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. I will say this. Once you submit the ordinance or everything that we've talked about, the petition we will be able to take action and move on this quickly. So it'll just be.
And I would like to work with Ms. Friedman and converse with her so that we can. I make sure that I'm meeting y'all's needs, because if I submit a new ordinance, I want to make sure that
it's approved to form.
So read all of their minds and know what they're.
Oh, no, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, moving along, ordinance 1817, condemning structures and real property in the city. Code Supervisor Barger, if you would come, please, with the addresses that you have been presented. She's going to tell you this, but there are several properties that are being requested to come off, and I will let Sherry talk about that.
Marissa Barger, Code Enforcement Supervisor. After the ad ran through the paper, unfortunately not through the certified mail we mailed, I have received numerous calls and or emails from property owners or people helping property owners, and they have requested the removal of a few of these for a 90-day pause. One being 212 East Hickory. The owner was kidnapped and killed in a Hamas terrorist attack, and that property has been in probate. It recently got out of it, and they have a potential buyer waiting to buy it. He said he will not buy it if it is condemned. So they want a 90-day pause on that one. 113 Hampton. The owner is current on all her HOA fees and lives in another state. For some reason, the mail was not being forwarded. She asked for 90 days. She was unaware of the damage to the roof. Her lawn keeper or maintenance guy was not aware of it, allegedly. So she's asking that be removed, and she will get the repairs done, and the home will be listed for sale. 1302 King, Miss Fulton, she's actually here tonight. She has inherited this property through the passing of her parents, and she has sent me an email. Her and her siblings are willing to work out a plan of action with us to take action to clean and restore the property. 1314/1316 Highway 161 is pending a sale as well, and the potential buyer would prefer not to purchase the condemned property. 200 Overland Trail is also a property listed for sale, and asked for a 90-day pause on that.
Mayor?
Yes.
I understand the 90 days and we've done it before, but I think that we should maybe add into this after the first 30 days, if something hasn't done, I don't think we just say, hey, wait 90 days, but every 30 days it needs to be inspected, that work is being done, or the property has been sold, or a sale is in process. Instead of saying, hey, yeah, we're giving everybody a 90-day, because we know what happened on the last 90 day, nothing took place.
I will say with a couple of these properties, they are notorious for homeless or unhoused people breaking in and or living under the carport, and the homeowner refuses to respond to code enforcement's notices. They try to go around and above code enforcement to reach out. I have yet to hear from 2 of the property owners. So I agree.
Which property?
Which properties?
Mr. Bamberg, Robert Bamberg, 200 Overland Trail, has not reached out to me personally. Yes, and then 200 East Hickory is also a problem with unhoused people breaking in. However, that one's a little bit more understandable.
212?
212 East Hickory. He's an deceased out of the country, and his siblings all live out of the country, so it was going through a U.S. probate court, and so it just now got cleared up.
That one is understandable.
That one's understandable.
Yes.
Mr.
But
Bamberg's.
just to have a person, because I know, me personally, how many times I call you code, but them not respecting the job that you're trying to do.
Correct.
I have a problem with that.
I
really
agree.
do. I've actually went by there and seen this residence last year and was shocked.
Yes,
The way that
it had a
and I
structure
did-
fire on the rear of the house.
Right.
Obviously, you can't see that from the roadway. The
Right.
windows are boarded. However, there is a frequent flyer who lives in the carport with all their trash. Code enforcement has removed the trash from under the carport multiple times at the owner's expense because he refuses to answer any notices.
Officer Barger, can you go through the list of which properties you are requesting to be condemned?
118 Burrows is the one we gave 90 days to last time. They have still done nothing except for mow the front yard.
Okay.
So we want to condemn that one, please.
Okay.
The one at East Valentine does not have a number. It has 2 structures on it right now. Both are in very deplorable condition.
And you've reached out to that homeowner?
I have. He
Multiple
has a
times.
business and a property in North Little Rock, and he has not complied with any notices.
Okay.
1124 Sorrels. I have been in contact with that property owner. It's still in her parents' names or her aunt's name. I can't remember which one. The lady passed away. People keep breaking into it. The trash is all throughout the backyard. It's falling apart. The roof is damaged heavily. And then 1 Terramount. The home burned. They pulled permits to rehab it. She was in communication. It's been 2 years, no progress.
And I've had multiple calls on that.
No more contact.
Yeah.
So it would be 118 Borough, East Valentine, 1124 Sorrels, and 1 Terramount would be the ones we would like to.
You didn't mention 200 over Trail.
He was asked for a timeline.
But you've got down here, he has
Contact you?
refused to comply.
He has
and
not.
He's not, and you've tried multiple ways to get a hold of him, and he's still not responding.
Correct.
So I would like to put that one on the list.
So he hasn't contacted you back
He has not.
at all?
So if he hasn't contacted you, how is he getting an extension?
He re-
My office and asked.
Is that
He requested
how,
one, but
Is that how we've typically handled these? If they contact the mayor, they get a pass?
this will be a first.
No, yeah, it's not,
Yeah, I don't-
it's not a guarantee.
I don't feel comfortable with that, to be honest.
Officer Barger, I would like to reiterate the question that Councilperson Rupel asked. Which ones would you recommend?
Would I recommend 118 Borough, East Valentine, 200 Overland, 1124 Sorrels, and 1 Terramount?
Thank you.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 817 with 118 Burrows, 0 Valentine, 200 Overland, 1124, and 1 Terramount. Officer Barger's recommendation.
Second.
Motion And this is place ordinance 1817 on first reading.
As amended.
As amended.
I need to do that over again?
No, we did that. We have a motion and a second to place 1817 on first reading. Roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1817, an ordinance condemning structures and real property at the locations noted below in Jacksonville, Arkansas for structural defects, deficiencies, and public hazard conditions, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
All right, time of discussion, but we pretty much had it. Any other questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1817 on first reading, suspend the rules and place on second.
Ordinance 1817.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Okay, then entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1817 on second reading, suspend the rules and place on third and final
So
reading.
moved.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Okay, then entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1817 on this date.
Emergency clause?
It's coming up.
Next.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Okay, then entertain a motion to attach the emergency clause.
Motion to attach emergency clause.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Councilmember Deets.
Aye.
Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
All right, thing 1817 is now passed. Next item, and for those of y'all who are sitting out here, final item of business, it has been a lengthy meeting, is the update from the master street plan that we had received a request for the abandonment of the right-of-way that was in the county that the city had, but when state legislature changed it to where take away the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, this became a moot point at that point in time. That property is currently under contract, and anyway, we have not submitted it yet. The letter has been written. You believe you have it in your package. Y'all would said you would like to have seen what it is. So it has not been given to them yet, but have it there for y'all to see what is going on exactly. Any questions with that, comments?
Thanks for including the letter.
You're welcome, absolutely. Beyond that, no other new business for tonight, or is there any old or unfinished business?
Not old or unfinished, but we do have a community vigil this Saturday for the 6-year-old that was shot on Sunday. So if you would like to attend, I have the flyers with that information for this Saturday here out at the Community Center at 7. Thank you, Chief, for providing the men for safety.
If there's nothing else, entertain